YT Productions.
Yeah.
I love my HBCU, and boy, I love it, I love it. I love my HBCU, and man, I hope my team they won one.
Yeah.
I hope my team they won one.
Yeah, man.
I hope my team they won one.
Yeah.
I hope my team they won one.
Yeah.
I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson. And you gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, boy. You gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, yeah. We represent that swag, that MEAC, and let me say, what's up to
All right, it's Kyle T. Mosley as well as Mr. Wilton C. Jackson II taking over Dr. Cavil's inside the HBCU Sports Lab. How you guys doing this Friday evening? How you doing, Will?
It's going good, Kyle. What about yourself, man? I mean, it's another week of college football, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm excited about. You know, right now, last week I was on the road, saw a great game, Alabama State as well as Florida A&M, and I can't wait until next week. Ooh, that's going to be a good one down in at the Vet, man. So I know you're going to be there in full effect. But guys, we are here to talk some football with you guys as well as some other sports. And inside the HBCU Sports Lab is with Dr. Cavil as well as Mike as well as Charles and those guys. And they do such a great job during the week, but we're taking over on Friday. So if we're not going by script, I'm sorry, Doc. We are a little off script. Not really off script, but off script. All right. And guys, you can be able to join him every week where he has co-hosts Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Those guys are doing a great job, as well as they do a cast that they send a signal to KCOH 1230 in Houston, Texas with with Ralph Cooper and those guys as well. And, big games ahead. Right now, we're in the thick of things. We talk about conference, and there's not really much wiggle room for error right now. What are some of the top conference battles you're looking at for week 7?
Well, you start looking at those teams, Kyle. Like you talk about, obviously, Southern and Texas Southern plays this week. You know, obviously, we know the SWAC West is one of those divisions that will not get decided until the end of the season. No matter what you try to do or whatever we as prognosticators say early in the season, even in the middle of the season, it always comes down to the end of the season. So
what you're trying to say about the wacky SWAC?
I mean, it's gonna forever stay wacky. And at the end of the day, it's what makes it fun. I mean, because that's just the way that the West goes. So when you talk about that, you talk about the that battle, but then also you talk about Alcorn and Grambling. You're talking about, an Alcorn team that's lost the last 5 meetings in Grambling, dating back to 2014. And Saturday's game is in Grambling. And we really don't know. Again, I know I may have said this in previous weeks on a show, but they're like, we're still kind of trying to figure out Alcorn. Like we know that obviously Xavier Vaughn is their quarterback. He's more of a runner, but it's like, what are we really getting with Alcorn? I mean, last week I wasn't necessarily just super impressed with the win over Arkansas Pine Bluff. And granted, they won, and at the end of the day, you always want to win. But I'm looking to see what's gonna come next for Alcorn and what steps are they gonna take? Because again, we're talking about an Alcorn team that was predicted, pretty high in the SWAC West in the preseason rankings. So of course, there's that. And then the battle in Texas, with Texas Southern and Prairie View, like what's gonna happen there? Texas Southern has beaten Prairie View, and Prairie View messed around and beat Grambling. So it's just like, what are we gonna get there? We just really don't know. And as far as the East, I mean, right now it's still pretty open too. You got FAMU, you got Alabama State. You know, FAMU just came off their win against Alabama State last week for Alabama State's homecoming. Of course, Alabama A&M is still in the mix. Jackson State is around.
No, they're not. No,
Hey man, Connor Maynard and the Bulldogs gonna come after you for you saying that statement.
No, they're not. Look, man, I was in the Hornets' nest this past week, and I thought Alabama State's defense did a great job. Number one, and I think if Andrew Body was out there, it would have been a different story.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just going to leave it like that. Yeah. But I will say this part. I have to credit Coach Robinson and his crew for preparing that defense to do as well as they were able to do. But to be down to your fourth and fifth string quarterback, that's tough sledding for any team. And you know, if you go down to your second string quarterback, that's really tough. So for those guys to keep it close as much as they could, but the mistakes started to show up. But it also proved to me that Coach James Colsey III is a good coach.
Yep.
He's a good coach, and we should be recognizing what he's been able to do after Willie Simmons has left to go to Duke. And but what they have been able to do, they're gritting out those tough wins. You know, and when you have those close wins, like when early in the season against South Carolina State, that was a close win that they had to come back and finally put the W, right? But then you have this game going down to when you go down to Montgomery. And then you have to be able to win that game, a SWAC East game that's a very important game. And it was kind of touch and go for a little bit. And Alabama State, when it looks like they were trying to mount a comeback, wow, what did they do? They turned the tables, got a turnover, and it was a scoop and score, and it was lights out from there. So you look at what's happening. Well, we talked about the SWAC, but the MEAC. You look at what Damon Wilson is doing. You look at what Chinnis Berry is doing. That's good football that we're seeing. Of course, Trey Oliver and those guys are always going to be toward the top, but that's going to be very competitive coming down the stretch as well. What's your thoughts there?
You know what, Cal? I can't wait until we get into MEAC play. And I think most teams, I think it's maybe one or two teams or one team that's played a MEAC game thus far. But I can't wait until MEAC play really gets kicked in. Like, I think it's the week before Halloween. You're talking about North Carolina Central, South Carolina State, Morgan State, Howard, all in this mix to try to see who's going to, you know, essentially win the MEAC. And right now, like I said, for me, one of my teams that's been a dark horse and as a team that I felt like people should really keep an eye on is this South Carolina State team. And they're looking really, really good. You talk about the play from Eric Phoenix, the quarterback. Obviously, no stranger to Coach Berry, played for him at Benedict. He's playing well. He's playing well. Their rushing attack is pretty strong. Their defense is good. And then also what a lot of people may not know or could potentially forget is there's a lot of continuity on their offensive line, which is allowing Phoenix in the rushing attack that South Carolina State has to have the success that it's having this year. So it's going to be interesting to see what these teams will look like as it gets closer to MEAC play. Of course, you have Trey Oliver in North Carolina Central. You talk about a great coach. That's a coach who, even with the dynamic quarterback that they had over the last couple of years, he's gone, and Walker Harris stepping into that role and how this team has came together over the last several weeks. I think it's been phenomenal to watch. Of course, Damon Wilson and Morgan State, the defense, we know what they're going to do. And Howard, like I'm still interested to see what Howard's going to look like as this season continues to go down the stretch. They get a non-conference game against Sacred Heart this week, before getting into MEAC play, I think, in the next week. So it's going to be interesting to see what the MEAC looks like. Yeah,
really interesting stuff to happen there. But Division II teams have been dominating some of the press as well. We're talking about Johnson C. Smith. We're talking about Winston-Salem. we talk about all those guys. We're not really talking about Virginia Union as well as Virginia State, which Virginia State had a big loss this past week. But Johnson C. Smith, that is a great story. What are your thoughts there?
Oh man, like you talk about Coach Flowers at Johnson C. Smith. He's doing an excellent job with that program and turning it around. They're just continuously building each week. Obviously, quarterback in Darius Ocean, phenomenal. It's looking really, really good. And for those that don't necessarily know his story, you're talking about someone who went to 2 other schools before coming to Johnson C. Smith, and he's playing lights out for Coach Flowers, and it's really fascinating to see. I could truly say, I know for me, I didn't think Johnson C. Smith was going to be on top of the CIAA when the season started. I would have never said that. I would have never told you that they would be on the top. But I like to see it. I like what they're doing. Of course, you have other teams amongst both CIAA and SIAC to watch. I mean, I think with specifically SIAC, we can't talk about the SIAC without talking about Clark Atlanta. I know they lost last week, but you can't talk about the job that Teddy Keaton has done. I mean, he's done an excellent job getting their program.
Phenomenal job.
Yeah. For where it is. And I know you might not like that as much because I know you're a Morehouse man through and through. I know, but you gotta give them credit where credit is due. They look really good. Just kind of sticking to the SIAC. You got Albany State and Miles, some other teams that are in the mix. But then from the CIAA, Winston-Salem State. You talk about Virginia Union and Jada Byers. You talk about a dynamic running back. If I'm a linebacker, I don't want to tackle him. I don't want to tackle him at all.
You don't want those big thighs to hit you?
Nah, I'm good.
Separate your shoulder.
Let me play in the secondary. So, but even then, if he gets to that gear, I still got to tackle him if it's a game saving, touchdown or to stop a critical play. But I'm not trying to stop Jada Byers. I'm just be real with you. Right.
Like, I've watched the young man. He ran all over Morehouse past couple of seasons, so I know what you get when you get Mr. Jada Byers there. All right, guys, we're going to start talking a little bit about what's happening. Homecomings have been a part of the HBCU culture. We love homecomings. Alabama State's homecoming last weekend, they had 33,576 attendees there. Man, but one thing they're not telling you about that homecoming, Sexy Red was in the building the night before, man, and she packed it out at the stadium. I didn't see Sexy Red. No, I wanted to, but I was trying to do some work. But Raina Roberts, I got a chance to meet the country music star herself. She was there with Sexy Red. I think there was a guy, Fab 40 something, whatever, I don't know all these guys, man, but they had a good time over at the ASU Stadium. But you look at Nicholls State and the Southern game, they had 17,000, and Alabama A&M and Jackson State had 14,900. Norfolk State and Sacred Heart, 8,000. Morgan State and Lincoln had 7,600. And Virginia State, Lynchburg, and Texas Southern had 7,000 at Alexander Dooley Stadium. Man, they were packing it out, man. Central State and Miles, 6,000. And we're looking at A&T and Richmond, they had around 6,000. Morehouse and Tuskegee had 6,200. Wow, that's very impressive. And we're looking at South Carolina State when they went to beat up on Tennessee Tech. Wow, they almost had 6,000 as well. So we're talking about an average of 11,000 people at these major games that packed it out. What's your thoughts with this type of attendance that we're seeing in the season?
Kyle, I think the attendance is good. I think that it shows that there's a strong brand of camaraderie and fans wanting to attend HBCU games. And really more so than anything, the culture is pretty much on full display. You're going to get more and more people coming to more games, especially as more homecomings start to, take place. Like y'all know, for me, being in Jackson State's homecoming is the first week in November. So that'll be something to see. And then, of course, there are other homecomings throughout the month of October. October is really that month where the homecomings really, really start to take off. You even just think about like Alabama A&M has homecoming this weekend. And I know from people that go to Alabama A&M or have went to Alabama A&M, Huntsville will be on fire. They will have it's going to be quite a few people at Alabama A&M for homecoming this weekend. So, like I said, I just think it's good for the culture, good for HBCUs, and it's always good to see when people can come out and support their teams and their fellow HBCUs.
It was great to see Alabama State's homecoming, man. People were packed. You know what was so cool? And we talk about people with violence and all this other nonsense. Mm-hmm. There was none of that. I didn't see not one incident whatsoever. Even when the FAMU people came in. Yeah. And FAMU people, they wanted to kick the hornets out their own nest. So it was really good to see. We're going to take a quick break. Let's see here. And we'll be back in around 2 minutes.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
This is Ryan Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Lab. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Lab, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
All right, it's Kyle T. Mosley here with Wilton C. Jackson II, Professor. We should call you Professor Jackson.
You know what? You better not let Dr. Cavil hear you say that, because I think it's only one professor on this show.
He's saying he's the dean now, man.
Oh well, no, that's right. That's right. You are right. Yeah, he got the elevation.
Yeah, he is the dean. Let's talk a little bit about some polls, man, and let's get into polls. But before we get into Doc's polls, I'm the bad kid on the block. I always got to take over and do things my way. But we're going to talk a little bit about what you had as your Division I guys right now. You have Florida A&M at the top, NCCU, and you talk about the rest there. Yeah,
so I put FAMU at number 1 because, again, like you're talking about the reigning HBCU champs. As far as like from the HBCU ranks, they haven't lost a game, and I feel like as long as they haven't lost a game, they're still the reigning champs. I still keep them at number 1. North Carolina Central, obviously we've seen the emergence of Walker Harris, what he's been able to do with that program. Following the footsteps of a legendary quarterback. Obviously, Jamari Taylor. Defense is still looking strong. Granted, MEAC play hasn't started yet, so this could change. One thing about these polls is only they go week to week. They can still change.
You sound like Coach Dishman now. I got only starters week to week.
No, so I mean, I still like the way that they've been able to play and capitalize on opportunities to win games. So I keep North Carolina Central there. Jackson State is number 3 for me. The only concern I have with Jackson State, man, is looking at the way they let Alabama A&M come back in that game, and you knew before that game Alabama A&M could score. Obviously, they started slow, but the defense can't have those lows because again, Jackson State on a bye week this week. They get FAMU next week, and so this is not a team you want to be, having lows against defensively. South Carolina State, this has been my sleeper team all year. I've been on Chennis Berry and the Bulldogs since the beginning, and I honestly think as the end of October gets here, they're going to continue to shake up some things in the MEAC. I don't know which team it's going to be, but I can guarantee you they're going to shake up some things. Obviously, you have Tennessee State at number 5. I put the Tigers there. I still like what Eddie George is doing with the program. They got a close win, I think, against Lindenwood last week. They were also obviously on First Take this morning. The culture,
yeah, that was really good to see, man.
Yeah, it was good. To see Tennessee State get that publicity that they need, and just seeing people come out to support the team and just the university in general, I thought that was good. Morgan State at number 6. Again, for Morgan, it's just one of those situations of, and I've said this before, I know defense is going to be defense, but what is the offense going to be able to continue to do to continue to progress and help them win games? And now at 7, 8, 9, and 10, I had Alabama State. You already said it best with them. They're down to their, 4th, 5th string quarterback. Defense is going to play lights out, and they did so for the majority of the game against FAMU. It's just they just did not have enough to score throughout that game with the Rattlers. And then, of course, Hampton, Grambling State. We're going to find out a lot about Grambling coming up. We're also going to find out a lot about Howard, again, in that month of October into November, going into the latter half of the season.
Could Florida A&M be vulnerable right now? And that's the thing people have been asking. And I saw something, especially the first half of that game where into the third quarter, where the place kicker, he did miss 3 field goals for Alabama State. That could have helped get that game a lot closer, make it a little bit more uncomfortable for those guys. So we're going to see how that kind of translates into whatever coming up. Okay, let's look at what Dr. Cavil's take. And we have dropping out of the mid-major division, Virginia State. You agree with that?
No, not for me. And we talked about this on the Tuesday show. I still have Virginia State as I'm looking at what I had. I had Virginia State at number 7. Okay. So still having them in the top 7 that he would normally have.
Okay, so receiving votes this week, you got Albany State, Miles, as well as Fayetteville State, the Broncos. Love that. Good team. But you also have at number 7, Clark Atlanta. The Panthers drop all the way down to 7, man. Is that right for the Panthers at that stage right now?
No. And like I said on the Tuesday show, me and good old Charles Bishop, we talked about this, and we were just like, to drop the Panthers from number 2 to number 7, I didn't think it should be like that. Like I said in my poll, I put Clark Atlanta at number 4 after their loss. I still think, obviously, the job that Coach Keaton is doing and where the Panthers are, I think they're still one of the best teams in the SIAC. Again, these polls change week to week, but I definitely wouldn't have dropped them to number 7.
We're going to start calling this the Chris Dishman effect. I know Coach is going to get on me tomorrow. So Mosley, I heard what you said about me. All right. So we got Virginia State number 7. That should be Clark Atlanta. Now we got Livingstone at number 6. Shaw Bears number 5. Virginia Union, number 5. I apologize, guys. Winston-Salem. I don't know if I'm following these slides the right way. Well, let's see. I think we got some trouble with these slides, guys. Well, anyway, I think the bottom line is number 1 should always be Johnson C. Smith right now for what Coach Maurice Flowers is doing with that program. I apologize, guys. The slides are not working well. So let's go to Division 1. Division 1, the Hampton Pirates are dropping out. Is that right for those guys? I mean, that was a tough game, a tough loss. I think they lost by 2 points.
Mm-hmm. For me, in my poll, and we didn't talk about this in the Tuesday show with Dr. Cavil, but I have actually Hampton at number 8, so 1 basically on the outs.
Okay. Also receiving votes, Alcorn State, Hampton, and Howard. I'm kind of on the fence with Howard, man. You don't know which Howard Bison team you're going to get this year. So we'll see, as well as Alcorn. Then you got Morgan State showing up at number 7. Now, I got some bones to pick with you. I know this the Bulldogs, but Bulldogs can't be at number 6, guys. Come on. The Bulldogs at number 6, Coach Chinnisberry. Grambling State at number. Oh, come on, guys. We got to do better with these polls. Tennessee State. They're looking at number 4. Now, that was a good win for Tennessee State, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it was a real good win. Jackson State, number 3. Yeah, I can agree with that. All right, we having more problems with there we go. And we having more problems. So we know number 2 and number 1. Number 2 is Florida A&M. Number 1, I believe, is NCCU on these polls.
Right.
All right, guys. So, yeah, let's take this out, Wilt, because that's some good stuff, man. Trey Oliver and the Eagles, those guys are top billing for right now. Do you think it's eventually, if Florida A&M can get by Jackson State? Because I really see that the winner of that next week's tilt between Jackson State and Florida A&M really being the representative for the SWAC. Yeah, I said it. That's how I see it. And because right now it's so much instability in the West.
Mm-hmm.
Only one team, I believe, has enough firepower that could really do some damage against those teams, and that would be Grambling, in my opinion. I know Grambling lost to PV, but PV's quarterback situation makes me very nervous between Johnson as well as Peters. What's your thought?
So the point that you make when you say that the winner that will represent the SWAC, say per se in the Celebration Bowl, would come from the East, I'm not going to disagree with you on that. I think that could very well be the thing. I do think specifically, I'll say this with Jackson State and FAMU, I do think that particular game will help decide who wins the SWAC East. I won't necessarily go to say the SWAC overall yet, just because I know things get wacky in the West and things can change. And
injuries can change some things too, right?
And for sure. And not only that, but like, you got to think this is a FAMU team that has found a way to continue to win, but we absolutely know that this is not the exact same FAMU team that it was last year. They are very much, from what we've seen all season, they're beatable. They could get their loss to Jackson State next week. And it really comes down to, you talk about a series of matchups. Like if Jackson State defense shows up like it does in the first half, in the second half, they get pressure on Daniel Richardson, it could present a lot of problems for FAMU. A lot of problems. And not to mention, we also saw that, FAMU still at times struggles to stop the run. They struggled to stop the run against Norfolk State.
Because Holzclaw, oh my God.
He you talk about not only fast, I can't remember what quarter this play happened, but he gets the ball and he makes a single cut and cuts up the field. I mean, it was quick. I was like, oh my God.
It was the first quarter, if I'm not mistaken.
It may have been, but it was like probably one of his better runs. He had quite a few, but one of his better runs in the game. And I said to myself, like, oh man, this guy is like legit. You knew that, but like when he did that against, the Rallis defense, I was like, okay, he's pretty legit. So again, if this is happening, if this happens against Alabama State, you're talking about a Jackson State team that has a bevy of running backs, even probably bigger than Alabama State, right? And not to mention, we're not even talking about the little guy in Travis Terrell, who's dynamic.
Yeah.
So
what scares me about Jackson State, if I was Florida A&M, I think Jacobian Morgan is peaking at the right time.
Yes, he is.
2 times consecutive back-to-back offensive player of the week for the SWAC. I think it's really giving him a lot of confidence as well. We're going to take a quick break, guys, and thanks to THG Agency LLC, THG for sponsoring today's episode. The agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics. So check those guys out online, and we'll be back into
It's never too early to plant. It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition and instill a sense of pride in your. It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition and.
Choice Hotels is a family of brands that helps you get the most for your money so you can be any traveler you want to be.
You could be a free hot breakfast hero at a comfort hotel.
Yes!
That's how you waffle.
Mr. This script got a plot twist at a Radisson hotel.
A business big leaguer.
Go for key.
Even the ultimate pool float inflator.
With 22 brands and the best value for your money, Choice Hotels has a stay for any you. Book direct at choicehotels.com, where travels come true. Gotta get the corners.
Okay, well, look like we're having some technical difficulties again. Apologize, guys. Let's see if we can be able to remedy that here.
Hey, grab me one too.
Choice Hotels is a family of brands that helps you get the most for your money so you can be any traveler you want to be.
You could be a free hot breakfast hero at a comfort hotel.
Yes!
That's how you waffle.
Mr. This script got a plot twist at a Radisson hotel.
A business big leaguer.
Go for key.
Even the ultimate pool float inflator.
With 22 brands and the best value for your money, Choice Hotels has a stay for any you. Book direct at choicehotels.com, where travels come true. Gotta get the corners.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KeversVoice.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
Troy, you work here? I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield, never not working.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
All right, we are back. And yeah, you guys check out Carlos Brown on tomorrow morning. He does a great job. He's Jaguar. He loves the Jaguar. So, and the Jaguars will be in Houston, Texas, taking on the Texas Southern Tigers tomorrow at Shell Energy Stadium. We'll be there to watch that one. At this time, in a few, probably like a couple hours now, we're going to have the Golden Lions taking on Prairie View. That is a interesting matchup. It's a much needed win for both teams to be able to keep pace in the SWAC West. How do you preview this one?
You know, Kyle, when I look at this game, this is a win that Prairie View needs. They can't afford to lose any other games in division play. If they do, you might as well say, I know Charles sometimes like to joke and say, we can start basketball season in Prairie View. But you know, it's just not a game that they need to lose against Arkansas Pine Bluff if they still have plans on potentially competing to win the SWAC West and obviously competing for a SWAC championship. If you're Arkansas Pine Bluff, you're a team looking to get a SWAC West win. You talk about if you get a win, that would be huge for the program. You know, we always talk about the level of confidence that Alonzo Hampton has within himself. You would like to think that the players can, continue to have that confidence, even though they haven't, the wins haven't shown up like they would like. But this is a Arkansas Pine Bluff team that usually when they start games, they keep it close. I mean, because most people will look at that score against Arkansas Pine Bluff and Alcorn last week for Alcorn's homecoming, and we'll say, well, Alcorn won 38-28, but for a good majority of the game, and that was only a 10-point win, but for a good majority of that game was close. And as someone like myself, I actually thought that, Alcorn was probably going to win that by at least maybe 2 touchdowns, maybe even a little bit bigger than 2 touchdowns. But it just goes to show you that you can't always look at records. Stats don't always give the true indication of how good a team is. And so you have to always continue to be prepared. I mean, look at what happened in FBS college football last week with Vanderbilt and Alabama. I mean, nobody expected that to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the ones who did bet on it, they got a big payday.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not a betting man, but at the same time, I say all that to say it's like this. If you're Prairie View, you definitely need this win. And you kind of shed some light on the quarterback situation that they've been dealing with. And then it's always sad when you don't necessarily have your best players in primetime positions when you really need them, because you talk about one key player, and I know you know this, Cal, just being in the Texas area. Shamar Savage is a dog.
Yeah. Yes, he is.
Being able to get him the ball to make plays, I mean, the guy can pretty much do it all. So I'm interested to see what this game looks like, but definitely it's essentially for Prairie View, any SWAC West game that they have left on the schedule, which I'm actually looking at their schedule now. Arkansas Pine Bluff today, then Texas A&M Commerce, and then they have to go on the road to Mississippi Valley, and then they also have FAMU, Alcorn, and Alabama State to end the season. That's not
the FAMU game is on the road, or is it in Prairie View?
That game is in Prairie View.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, good. Get to see the Rattlers one more time. So that'll be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Look, man, let's go out to the MEAC right now. And Norfolk State is taking on Townsend. And a gentleman who I respect very highly, Coach Odoms, his program is in a free fall at this moment. Mm-hmm. Do you think it is fair for people to think that Coach Odoms cannot survive at this time?
You know what, Kyle? We live in a free world. And, at the end of the day, people get a chance to think, do, and say whatever they want to say. Personally, understanding the business of sports and college football, we how many times do we see that coaches don't always get fair opportunities to stay as long as they should?
Right.
And you see it in multiple sports, not even just football. Like if you just deviate real quick, small, look at what's going on in like some of the coaches in the WNBA. Specifically that.
Well, yeah, look, Teresa Witherspoon, right? So We know this can happen.
Yeah.
All
So,
right.
but I just want to add this. I think that with Odoms, because he's been there for some years now, I think fans are just getting fed up with the fact that we've given you opportunity. You know, there's this promise of there are, you know, great players coming in with recruiting. You know, what does it take for Norfolk State to basically be restored as a prominent threat in the MEAC? And it's just, I mean, it's hard to win football games, but when you're the coach, you get paid the big bucks to make those decisions to win games.
It's getting hard out there in the MEAC. You got to win the game, baby. All right. So Clark Atlanta, they take on Central State. That could be a very competitive game as well. So we need to keep our eye on that one. But Central is taking on Virginia Lynchburg. Okay. We know the outcome is going to happen there. So Bowie State against Virginia State. The Trojans, they need to win this one, don't you think?
Oh yeah,
as well as Bowie State. They had that was a tough loss last week.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think about this. Just a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about Bowie State being amongst Dr. Cavil's top 7 teams. You know, and we have this joke on Tuesday where, like, especially in the beginning of the season, where we talk about how you better take a screenshot of some of these teams in the top 7 because they may not be back by the end of the season. So, you're thinking about this Bowie State team that obviously, like you said, they need a win to stay afloat and all that. So it'll be interesting to see how that game plays out. Bethune
Against Alabama A&M. Guys, this is going to be more competitive than you think.
No, it is.
I'm just going to leave it like that. That's going to be more competitive than you think. But this one is something that we really need to pay a close attention to in the SWAC West. Alcorn State going into Grambling. Any thoughts?
When I look at that game, so it really depends on what Grambling team you're going to get. Because like I said, when you get the Grambling team that played against Jackson State, that obviously, came out strong with a fast start. Miles Crawley looked good. The defense forced turnovers. I think they're like top 1 or 2 in forcing turnovers in the SWAC, if I'm not mistaken. So you're talking about a Grambling team that if they come out, like lights out, playing like the hair on fire, defense is playing strong. You talking about this is a team that could get another win in the West. But I will say this. If Alcorn does get this win against Grambling, it kind of starts to crystallize and solidify what Alcorn is this season.
Or what the coaches and the SIDs hoped they would be this season.
Exactly. Better point.
All right. I think that's more. Let's just put that exclamation point there. The Golden Tigers of Tuskegee and Lane. Now, Lane early in the season was doing pretty well, and they kind of been teetering, but that's always been a very competitive game there. So we'll see there, and we know that Tennessee State is going to host Eastern Illinois. That's homecoming for Tennessee State.
Yes, it is.
All right, cool. And they had First Take there. That was pretty good. And the Mississippi Valley Delta Devils against Alabama State. They're going into a tough situation, the Devils, man. And I think Coach Robinson and those guys are smarting. They're going to want to prove something.
Oh, absolutely. This is Alabama State team that's going to be locked and loaded coming into another home game in Montgomery, considering that they lost against FAMU last week. I do think that, Coach Wade and what he's doing in Mississippi Valley, I think that they will try to keep that game close as possible, specifically through the first half. But I just don't think that they're going to walk away from Montgomery with a win. I think Alabama State bounces back with a strong win.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Brandon King, he does great work. And he talks about the defense of Grambling in the top 3 in terms of takeaways and touchdowns.
Yep, they have generated tons of turnovers this season.
Yeah, when a team, I think Bill Belichick used to say this: if a team can turn over the ball at least one time, their chances goes up to at least 65%. If they do it 2 times, it goes up to close to 90%. Isn't that something? Yeah. Turnovers matter, guys. So if you could just take an extra possession away from a team, you can be able to give your team and your offense a better chance. And also it helps with the field position as well. And we talk about the nightcaps. One of the nightcaps will be Southern Jaguars against the Texas Southern Tigers. Coach Graves and the Jaguars are going to roll in, and you can tell both of these squads are either going to be ready to take on the challenge, or are they going to be ready to kind of go to bed early on this one, man? And I know Coach Dishman does not want that to happen. I'm concerned about if that front for Texas Southern can hold up in the passing game, especially if they're Texas Southern has to play from behind. Can they hold up and give Jordan Davis enough time to be able to execute some of the plays? What are your thoughts there?
Cal, honestly, Jordan Davis, and even with what Texas Southern is doing, Jordan Davis has done his job to the best of his abilities with everything going on at the quarterback position. I personally, to your point, I definitely think that Texas Southern would need to come out with a fast start so that they don't have to play behind, because I'll just say this. If they do have to play behind this game, it really, really limits their chances of winning this game, because we know what Texas Southern is going to do. They're going to run the ball. Like, it's no secret. They're going to run the ball, but you can't win a game if you're down 21 points and run the ball and expect to come back to win. Not because you may not be able to score enough points, but more so, or that you can't score. It's more so the fact of, will you have enough time to score as many points as you would like? And that's just what it comes down to with Texas Southern. And as far as Southern, they have, been having some issues at quarterback too. Obviously, Xavier Tissett, we don't necessarily know when he's going to come back. I know I was reading I
thought he said he wants to play. That's what I thought he said in a press conference.
Well, yeah, and so I was reading the Advocate, the local paper there in Baton Rouge, and I know they said this week that he was day to day. So it'll be interesting to see if he gets time in this game. Of course, Noah Biden played last week in that loss to Nichols, and then they let the freshman quarterback play, Jalen Woods, who didn't necessarily look bad, but obviously that game was out of control by the time he actually got some playing time. But I think it's going to be interesting to see who they start at quarterback. And if Southern can get the running game going with Kobe Dillon and Kendrick Rhymes against Texas Southern and some pretty decent play at quarterback, I think Southern probably walks away with this win.
Yeah. Brandon brings up a good point. Coach Dishman didn't seem like he really falls in. Well, he hasn't really fallen in love with that quarterback realm the whole year. Yeah. After KJ Cooper went down, it was more so of, do I really have to play these guys? That's what it seemed like to me.
Well, not only that, but then he kind of alluded to that even, at the game that we were at with Jackson State and Texas Southern. It's you could almost just kind of tell it's like, I have to have a quarterback because I have to have a quarterback on the field. But at the same time, that's not the only position that's going to help us win the game. But to a degree, you got to have a good quarterback to win games consistently.
Which is puzzling to me in some instances, because when he played with the Houston Oilers, he had one of the best quarterbacks in the whole world in Warren Moon, right? When he played in Purdue, he had a very good quarterback, So I know he's a defensive guy and defensive-minded guy, but I have to think, when you look at Texas Southern, you have to believe that you've got to have better quarterback play coming out in the long run, right? So we'll pick back up on this. We'll be back in a few minutes, guys. Thank you.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again.
Hey, grab me one too.
Ryan Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Lab. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Lab, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Choice Hotels is a family of brands that helps you get the most for your money so you can be any traveler you want to be.
You could be a free hot breakfast hero at a comfort hotel.
Yes!
That's how you waffle!
Mr. This script got a plot twist at a Radisson hotel.
A business big leaguer.
Go for key.
Even the ultimate pool float inflator.
With 22 brands and the best value for your money, Choice Hotels has a stay for any you. Book direct at choicehotels.com, where travels come true.
Gotta get the corners.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Okay, we are back with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Kyle T. Mosley as well as Wilton Jackson. Well, NASCAR has been very instrumental in trying to promote HBCUs. I think that first car when Grambling State was out there at Daytona, right? Mm-hmm. That was a trailblazing moment for NASCAR. I think with the truck series and things to that nature, you have Clark Atlanta alum and he's also a NASCAR vice president of diversity and inclusion. How do you see the growing demographics for blacks and minorities really taking to NASCAR recently? And I always loved NASCAR, but a lot more people are gravitating to it. What's your thoughts?
I think it's good. I think that you're gonna get more of it as long as they continue to push forward. And I think you kind of mentioned it with NASCAR. They have this this diversity internship program for like students where they are. I actually know the guy who oversees that program. They're always looking to advocate and bring in more HBCU students to expose them to what NASCAR offers. Because again, most kids, and not only just HBCUs, but just kids in general, when it comes to sports, they don't always just go running to NASCAR. They're going to go run to basketball and football and baseball and soccer and what have you. And it's like NASCAR could be an opportunity for you that could change your life, whether it could offer you a job, whether if you actually like the sport in general, you may get involved with it from that regard. But I think that it as long as they're continuing to expose these students and really still building relationships with colleges and universities, specifically HBCUs, I think you're going to see a more, drummed up interest for NASCAR.
Look, man, I had a conversation with Denny Hamlin a couple of seasons ago, and he has that partnership with Michael Jordan, and is it X23 race team?
Yep.
So Denny Hamlin said a lot of people forget this is a business, so there's different layers. There's finance, accounting, there is business administration, there's the engineering, the tech crews and things to that nature. So they were helping to be able to provide scholarships for HBCU students at that time. I think the focus was primarily at Tennessee State and Jackson State, if I'm not mistaken, because the emphasis was in Tennessee at that time. But guys, don't if you're graduating from college, send your information to NASCAR, because they can possibly find something for you, because I know firsthand they were looking for talent in that area. So I think it's good to see right now. Also, they have those HBCU Racing Pit Crew jerseys. That's pretty cool to go on their the Legacy Pride History Pride website. So check those guys out. I think it's around $90 for that at this time as well. Okay. Any major stories on your mind that we'd like to kind of end with?
I wouldn't necessarily say major stories, but I just want to mention just the level of competition that we're getting into in the month of October. We were going to really start to figure out which teams are going to be contenders and pretenders. And it was interesting because I was finishing up another show and I kind of jotted down some of the schedules for the remaining, specifically the CIAA. You're going to probably get a situation. I know somewhere Eddie Drew is probably watching because he mentioned this earlier during the week, but like the CIAA teams are definitely going to start beating up on each other. Right. And, I took down the schedules of a couple teams with Virginia State, Fayetteville State, Shaw, Winston-Salem State, and then also some of the SIAC teams, but specifically that Shaw schedule when they have to go to Winston-Salem State, at Johnson C. Smith, and Fayetteville State.
Ooh, brutal.
Before ending the season at Livingstone. And then Winston-Salem State, a team that, I've kind of grew on me over the last couple of weeks. They get Shaw at Livingstone, then Johnson C. Smith before open week, and then Fayetteville State, just two to mention. So it's going to be really fascinating to see just Johnson C. Smith still stay on top as the season continues to unfold, because they obviously for sure look like the best team in the CIAA. And then in the SIAC, is Clark going to continue to maintain and stay amongst the top, even though they had that loss last week? Because obviously they're still Miles, they're still Albany State, they're still Fort Valley. I actually have caught some slack because I didn't. I may or may not didn't have one of those teams in my top 10 not last week on Tuesday. But it's just going to be fascinating to see. It's really just fascinating to see every level of HBCU football this year, from the MEAC, the SWAC, the CIAA, and the SIAC.
And I got to throw some shade at those Panthers because, First Take is going to be on campus November 7th, if I'm not mistaken, at the AUC Center.
It's either the 7th or the 11th.
Oh, okay. It's one of those beatdowns that Morehouse is going to rise up and put on those Panthers. I said it. Yeah. But it's going to be good to have those guys, Shannon Sharp and Stephen A. Smith, as well as now Cam Newton has joined the crew with Molly Querum. It's good to see those guys all together. Man, Cam Newton has done a great job with his podcast and resurrecting, well, not really resurrecting, but showing that he has a different layer to his talent and ability. Yeah. I was at Alabama State, and this is just a PSA that I'm going to throw out there. There's been a rise in HIV infections in the Black community, guys. And ViV Healthcare was there sponsoring that Alabama State homecoming. And one thing I learned, Wilt, is that out of the new cases reported to the CDC, 53% come from the Black community in the South. 53%. And of those 53%, 50% come from ages 13 to 24.
Wow.
So guys on the campuses, let's be safe. There's preventive measures out there. There's a PrEP kit that is out there as well. So, and it's hitting everybody. And so there's a lot of misnomers of who is going to be a part of that demographic. Guys, it's everywhere and it's with everybody. So let's be safe out there, okay? As far as the HBCU sports scene right now, we're getting into basketball season. Mm-hmm. We're going to be without Tamika Reed, which makes me very, very sad. But she's going to be doing well over at UNC Charlotte with the 49ers there. But the CIAA had their media day, which is very good. Of course, the SWAC a few weeks ago and the SIAC as well. Who are some of those top teams in basketball that you're, I guess, itching to see how they're going to play this season?
Well, I think for me, more so with my experience in watching with basketball is more tailored to the SWAC and the MEAC. But since we've talked about SWAC in previous weeks, I'll kind of talk about the MEAC a little bit. There's going to be no shortage of talent in the MEAC. You're talking about, players like specifically on that women's side of the ball too, women's side of the sport. With Norfolk State, obviously, having a graduate guard like Diamond Johnson coming back, and this Norfolk State team that has, obviously a dynamic coach who leads them and what they've been able to do over the recent years to sustain that program. So I'm interested to see what Norfolk State is going to do. Howard is going to come back strong. So I'm interested to see what these teams are going to look like. And like I said, even just within basketball specifically, talent is being spread out over different teams. You're starting to see more continuity amongst conferences and leagues. So it's really an exciting time in sports, and you're starting to see more talent being spread out across different leagues.
All right. That's Wilton C. Jackson II. Follow Wilt online. Guys, thank you for being with us, and it's going to be an exciting weekend of football in Week 7 for HBCUs. Don't forget to check out Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, and inside the Sports Lab with he as well as Mike Washington and Charles Bishop this upcoming week. And you can also check those guys out and follow them online on Twitter, Facebook, as well as Instagram. And you can check out the Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 Facebook page as well. I'm Kyle T. Mosley of the Black Sports Insiders, as well as HBCU Legends on Sports Illustrated. That's Mr. Wilton C. Jackson. Wilt, have a good one, man.
You too, Kyle.
And you guys, don't forget, be safe out there and always be tenacious. Thank you.